Hello, welcome to Alternatives to Adobe Creative Cloud. My name is Ken. I'm the Digital Services Specialist at the Barrington Area Library. Here's an overview of what I will be discussing today. First, I'm going to talk about which Adobe apps that we will be discussing. Then we will talk about why we need alternatives. Then I'm going to do a comparison of some free alternatives to these Adobe apps. And then finally, I will discuss some more resources where you can learn more about these apps. Adobe has become the industry standard for creative design computer apps. If you have used Adobe products, then you know all about their robust features and consistency. Adobe has many more apps that I will not be talking about today, but I'm just going to focus on some of their popular apps and also try to show off the range of the different types of apps that Adobe and their competitors offer. I will not be going into a deep dive into all of these apps. This is more of an overview just to spark your interest so that you can do more independent research into any of these apps so that you can learn more about them. Okay, so these are the 5 apps that I will be discussing today. The first is Photoshop. It is a raster graphics editor. Then next is Illustrator, which is a vector graphics editor. The difference between raster and vector graphics is that raster images are made up of pixels. Vector images are made up of paths. Basically, when a raster image is increased in size, it can look blurry or pixelated. Vector images are scalable without any loss of quality, so they are great for bigger images. So basically, raster and vector are just 2 different digitization techniques, and therefore they require different software programs to edit. I'll also be talking about Premiere Pro, which is an advanced video editing software, and then InDesign, which is a desktop publishing software. This allows you to edit layout designs for newspapers, magazines, brochures, ebooks, and PDFs. And then finally, I will be talking about Audition, which is used to record and edit audio. Okay, so why do we need alternatives? The first reason is the cost of Adobe apps. So they're so costly because so much time and effort goes into developing and maintaining the quality of these apps. Many other software companies that make similar products also charge money for their apps, so it's pretty rare that there are free versions of these apps with all the features that Adobe offers. So a lot of the software that I will be talking about as an alternative likely does not offer everything that the Adobe versions offer, but almost all of them come very close to what Adobe offers. Also, with Adobe, you have to pay for a monthly license versus only paying a one-time fee to purchase a software. So this is something to keep in mind. If you don't like to keep up with, a monthly payment to Adobe, then that's another reason to go with an alternative software. But Adobe does offer 1-week free trials for each of their apps. The cost of individual licenses can get pricey depending on how many apps you use. Currently, for an individual license, all of the previously mentioned apps are $21 per month. You can bundle all Adobe apps together for $53 per month. So if you use more than 2 Adobe apps regularly, then this might be a good option to bundle the apps if you are willing to pay for it. Another difference between Adobe And the alternatives that I'm going to talk about is proprietary versus open source. Adobe apps are proprietary, meaning that Adobe owns the copyright on the source code used to build their apps, and they have control over when updates are available to install for their apps. So basically, Adobe controls everything with their apps. Open source apps are different because anyone can view or change the source code. So independent developers can legally redistribute copies of their edits to these softwares. Open source means that the software is free to use and it is also free to change the source code. This creates a community of users because the software is being developed by the users. Any bugs that exist in the software can be fixed quickly without approval from an organization. Another reason why you may need an alternative is that Adobe is only available on Windows and Mac. It is not available on Linux. So if you are running on a Linux machine, then unfortunately you can't run any of the Adobe softwares. So then you will want to look toward these alternatives. All the alternatives that I'm talking about today can run on Linux machines, so that's nice. So let's talk about the Photoshop alternatives for raster graphics editing. Okay, the first alternative is a software called GIMP. You can see the layout here looks very similar to Photoshop. The nice thing about GIMP is that it requires a low amount of memory to run it versus Photoshop. So if you have an older computer or just a slower computer, GIMP is a great option. You can open up existing Photoshop files, which is nice. So if you're collaborating with other people who have Photoshop documents, you will be able to open those and edit them using GIMP. And GIMP is very easy to use for beginners. There's not a lot of menu diving like potentially on Photoshop. You can see all the tools are over on the left-hand side, laid out very nicely to use. And again, GIMP is free, just like all of these softwares that I will be talking about. Okay, the next is Photopea. So this is a browser-based platform. So it's all used within a browser. You don't have to download the software, but you do need to have an internet connection while using it. So as you can see from the screenshot of the interface, you'll see that there are advertisements that run on the right-hand side. So that's just something to be aware of with free software. In order to make money, a lot of them will run ads, from time to time, especially if it's a browser-based software. Photopea is great for quick edits. It's not as robust as GIMP or Photoshop, but it has the basic features that you need. It also has a lot of great templates built into it if you are looking to, make greeting cards or things like that. Okay, now moving on to the Illustrator alternatives for vector graphics editing. So Inkscape is a very popular free software. It has a simple interface, again with not a lot of menu diving. And you can also import Illustrator files into Inkscape. So this is great if you have started a file in Illustrator, you can go back and forth and work in Inkscape as well. And it requires less memory to run than Illustrator. So again, if you have a slower computer, Inkscape will be fine. Okay, so Vector is a browser-based vector editing platform. If you're looking to learn a new skill with vector editing, they have a great list of tutorials right on their website. And they have a lot of templates for logos, business cards, and resumes as well. Okay, so now moving on to the Premiere Pro alternatives for video editing. DaVinci Resolve is an excellent software. It offers advanced color correction tools that are comparable to the Adobe After Effects program. With Adobe, you can integrate After Effects into Premiere Pro, but they are two expensive apps that you have to pay for individually. With DaVinci Resolve, it's kind of like having features from both Premiere and After Effects in one app. It does require more memory to run, so slower computers will not likely be able to run DaVinci Resolve. There's also a studio version of DaVinci Resolve that is an upgrade. It does cost $300, but it's only a one-time purchase. So you can compare that to, the monthly Adobe license. The free version is very robust and has a lot of features, but the studio version, just gets a little bit more in depth. So next we have Kdenlive. It is targeted for non-professional use, so it's not necessarily like a direct competitor with Premiere Pro. But as you can see from the layout, it looks, fairly professional. There are a lot of great features on here. There's a customizable interface, so you can really move things around and set up your session the way that you want. And the good thing is that it requires less memory to run than DaVinci Resolve and Premiere Pro. So if you have, a machine with less memory, then Kdenlive is a great option. InDesign alternatives for desktop publishing. So the cool thing about Scribus is that you can import and export SVG files. These are basically vector graphics image files, and InDesign cannot import or export SVG files. So that's one thing that Scribus has over InDesign. And like InDesign, Scribus has vector drawing tools, so you can manipulate graphics that you bring in or draw things from scratch. One negative about Scribus is that you cannot import InDesign native files. So unlike some of the other apps that I was talking about, you can't go between the Adobe and the alternative in this case. So Crello is a web-based publishing software. As you can see from the interface, it does look a lot more simplistic than the others. So Crello really has a lot of templates and stock images, as you can see as well. So if you just want to make some quick greeting card or just a quick page layout, then it has a lot of really cool graphics and photos built into it. Again, it's not as robust as the others, but it is a very simple and quick alternative. All right, moving on to Audition alternatives for audio editing. So the first alternative is Audacity. As you can see, it has a very simple interface. It's probably like the most basic, old-looking interface, but it is a high-quality software. So just like Audition, you can export high-quality WAV files. So in terms of the finished result of your audio files, you can achieve the same sounding results as Audition. One key difference between Audacity and Audition is that Audacity has destructive editing as opposed to non-destructive editing. So with destructive editing, any effects or edits that you make to the audio file will automatically change that file when you save the program. So that means the next time that you open the project, you won't be able to undo these edits. Audacity does this so that they free up memory to increase the processing speed. In Audition, you can turn off effects and undo edits in between sessions. So basically with Audacity, you just can't get back to the original audio file that you had after you save the program. All right, and then there are two more alternatives here. Cakewalk is a Windows-only platform, but it features non-destructive editing, just like Audition. GarageBand is a Mac-only platform with the same non-destructive editing, so you can go back and turn off effects in between sessions, and you can get back to your original waveforms. So Cakewalk, GarageBand, and Audition are very comparable, so just depending on which platform you're on, you may want to check out some of these free examples. Okay, and finally, I just want to talk about resources. The first is lynda.com. It's a great website with video tutorials, and it's free to use with your Barrington area library card. So if you just go to balibrary.org and search for Lynda in our databases, you can access a lot of great video tutorials. Many of the softwares that I talked about today have tutorials on lynda.com if you want to learn specifically about any of these. And also, if you have any questions about the presentation today, or if you have more in-depth questions about any of the programs I discussed, please email me at digitalservices@balibrary.org. Thank you very much, and take care.